pulmonary trunk and aorta. For the ventricles, since the atria here are pretty much right and left, the ventricles are not, they're kind of twisted. So you look for the sulcus where the vessels are running through, and you have left ventricle and the right ventricle, and they're kind of folded over like that. So right ventricle continues onto the back. Let's see. The vena cava is a little tough to identify superior versus inferior on this guy, but I'm going to show you on this model. So if I have the right side right here, I'm going to flip it over. So I can see the superior vena cava right here and the inferior vena cava right here. And they join and they basically make the back of the right atrium. It forms this really big sinus. If I open up the right atrium, I can see a bunch of structures in here. And I'll kind of twist it around so you guys can see. So the fossa ovalis is right here in the interatrial septum. This used to be a foramen ovale, which was a hole between the atria to help you just transfer blood as a fetus. And let's see, the coronary sinus is on the back of the heart near the inferior vena cava. The coronary sinus is right here. All of your deoxygenated blood is going to enter the heart through the right atrium. So this actually jumps into the right atrium. And on the inside, you can see that's the opening of the coronary sinus, that red spot's right there. Do you want to ask a question?
The sinus goes all the way across too. It extends all the way across the...
So a lot of these are veins that are going to drain into the sinus. So it has a number 10 right here on the model, and that's where I'll point if I want you guys to identify the sinus. Okay, so if we look at valves now, success. Okay, so we can see some of the valves here. So these are AV valves. So the one on the right is the tricuspid valve. So the one on the right here is the tricuspid valve. The one on the left here is going to be the bicuspid or mitral valve. So here's the bicuspid mitral valve right here. We also have, when we see on the inside, we have papillary muscle, which are projections off of the heart wall, the myocardium. And that is actually where these collagenous strands attach to. These are called, the chordae tendineae. And these, if you follow it from the bottom up, which is the method I like to use, I find a papillary muscle, I trace it up to the chordae tendineae, and then I can find the valve itself. The other two valves you need to know are the pulmonary valve, leading from the right ventricle up into the pulmonary trunk. And then you need to know the aortic valve. And on this one, you have to kind of peek way up in there. It's right next to the mitral valve. Okay, so we followed ourselves from the right atrium through that tricuspid valve and into the right ventricle. We go through the pulmonary valve, and now we're in the pulmonary trunk. It's okay right now for you guys to call this the pulmonary artery because it's carrying it away. Technically, this is a trunk, and these, once it splits, are the arteries. The blood comes back into the left atrium, you guys can see in the back, comes into the left atrium through pulmonary veins, and now we're in the right atrium. It's pretty cavernous in here. And then it goes through the bicuspid or mitral valve and into that left ventricle. And then from there we go up into that aortic valve, which we just looked at. And we have, one other thing that I need to point out to you guys, the ligamentum arteriosus used to be an actual duct that connected your pulmonary artery to your aorta as a fetus. When you took your first couple of breaths, it shrunk into like a ligament. So that's your ligamentum arteriosum. Okay, you should be able to find most of the stuff on these models as well. The sheet model that shows the ligamentum arteriosum is the ones with the hole punched in it. Ligamentum arteriosum right there. Just a little swish. And it really likes to be on exams, so I usually indulge it. The end.